Hello everyone, it's Shiose, and if you haven't heard, there has been so much Rush Duel news in the past few days. In fact, she was in the middle of writing her video script for yugioh's cards when all of a sudden the Rush Duel Twitter dropped a whole bunch of the new fusion cards for all of the main 7. So that's Yuga, Luke, Romin, Gakuto, Nail, Asana, Roa. They all now have fusion cards. So in this video, Shiose wants to talk about all of these new fusions and what she thinks about them, not only in the anime sense, but in the meta as well. She has some very strong opinions, let's say that. Without further ado... So first up is Yuga's fusion, Stray Familia. It is a level 7 with 200 attack and 2600 defense that's made up of 2 Stray Familiars and has no requirement to activate its effect, which is just that you get to choose one normal monster, spellcaster, in your graveyard and special summon it to your field. If the special summon monster is Stray Familiar, then this card also gains 1400 attack until the end of the turn. Now, looking at this, it's not a bad effect. In fact, it's pretty great if it weren't a fusion. The problem with this card in Shiose's eyes is that because it's a fusion, you first not only have to go out of your way to use Stray Familiar in your deck, you also need to put fusion in your deck. And the thing is with spellcasters is that they currently already have a pretty good engine all on their own, without Stray Familiar, which is usually replaced with Doriado, for example. Did she even say that correctly? In any case, -3 for a 2600 wall that can only target normal spellcaster types in your graveyard is, in her opinion, just not really worth it. At most, you'd probably special summon Dark Magician, which if you have a Dark Magician deck may maybe be worth it, or well, Answer. But once again, spellcaster decks wouldn't run Answer in the first place. But you know, there's some meme potential with this card. So how about you special summon Light or Dark Sorcerer, then boost its attack with Wind Spirit Blessing, then give it the ability to attack directly with Luminous Shaman. That's a 2500 attack monster going directly to your opponent, completely ignoring their board, which is pretty great, but it is a meme strategy, unfortunately. So, for Shiose at least, she rates this a 10 out of 10 for cuteness, but probably like a 4 out of 10 for usefulness. So in total, she'd give it a, let's say, 6 out of 10. So next up is Dragon's Kickbase Master, which is Luke's fusion card. It's a level 7 with 2300 attack, 200 defense, and uses Dragon's Upsetter and Dragon's Striker as its materials. It requires you to shuffle 1 Dragon's Set Upper or 1 Dragon's Defender from your deck from your graveyard into your deck, and then you can choose and destroy 1 spell or trap card your opponent controls. So looking at this from Shiose's perspective, she feels like out of all of the fusions that were revealed together, this is probably the worst one out of all of them. So keep in mind, 1, that fusion requires you to go -3. 2, fusion takes up an extra slot in your deck. And 3, the only fusion support we have right now is Star Restart, which only allows you to special summon 1 normal monster from your graveyard, 1 level 5 or lower normal monster, which means in the case of Dragon's Kickbase Master, you wouldn't get back any of your materials actually, because they're both effect monsters. So you can't recycle your poly with Star Restart. It's just a little strange. However, on top of all of that, going -3 for a 2300 attack monster, which, while high in Rush Duels, is not high enough to justify the amount of resources that you're gonna have to put into it. At that point, Shiose would just recommend you run a Blue Eyes White Dragon, and it's less cost for 3000 attack. And a minor pop effect that lets you destroy 1 spell or trap card, which is fine if it weren't on a fusion. And the thing is, dragon decks already have a form of spell trap removal through Heat Flash, and if you're running a dragon deck, you should be running Heat Flash anyway. So Shiose just feels like this monster's a little lackluster. Maybe if it destroyed 2 Spell or Trap cards, it would be a little bit more worth it. But with a measly 2300 attack versus the amount of resources you have to put into it, and a very specific effect that can only be activated if you already have set Upper or Defender in your graveyard, which is not even one of its base materials, definitely not the best one. It is in fact the worst one in her opinion. Sorry, Luke. Well, all in all, she would give Dragon's Kickbase Master around probably like a 5 out of 10 for coolness. It's not speaking to Shiose personally. And like a 2 out of 10 for usefulness. So probably a 3 out of 10 on average. Oh. Next up is Romin's Emoji Howling Performer. It is a level 7 psychic with 2500 attack, 1700 defense, using Emoji Performer and Howling Bird as its materials. You can activate its effect by placing one Emoji Performer or Howling Bird from your graveyard on the bottom of your deck. Then you can inflict 800 damage to your opponent. So basically, Shiose thinks this is a pretty okay card. It's not amazing, but it's not bad either. The effect is basically free because you already have to send a Emoji Performer and Howling Bird to the grave in order to fusion summon this card. So its requirement, just having you place one of the materials back into your deck, is great. And because there's 2 mats, and it's either or, that means you can use its effect twice, assuming that, it actually survives the next turn. And on top of all of that, it's a 2500 beat stick. Now, weighed against going -3 for a fusion, it's pretty okay. However, Howling Bird... So, unfortunately, Shiose can't say too much about psychic types, but she feels like if you were to want a 2500 beat stick with some extra damage, you would probably instead choose Can Ready or Prima Guitarna, or just use a Emoji Performer herself again. But, this one isn't as bad as, let's say, Luke's. So, all in all, Shiose will give Emoji Howling Performer, let's say... Well, she's really cute, so Shiose will give her an 8 out of 10 for cuteness, and a 6 out of 10 for usefulness. So she would give this probably a 7 out of 10 overall. Next up is Gakuto's fusion, Kengo Shogun of the Crescent Moon. It is a level 8 with 2600 attack, 2000 defense, and it uses Masaki the legendary samurai general and Hero of the East as its materials. It can activate its effect by sending the top card of your deck to the graveyard. And for the rest of this turn, this card cannot be destroyed by your opponent's traps. So, actually, for Shiose, she feels like this is a really great fusion. It's still, when you compare it having to go -3, it's okay, but its 2 materials, Masaki the legendary samurai general and Hero of the East, are already pretty well used in warrior decks because they are, beat sticks on their own. So there's no problem with maybe slotting 1 or 2 fusion cards into your deck in order to get this one out. And it's a 2600 beat stick that won't be destroyed by Dark Liberation. On top of all of that, it mills your deck for 1 card, which means you could probably use Star Restart to fusion summon again. It's pretty good overall. Shiose would give this a 10 out of 10, although she should probably rate it based on how cool it looks, which by the way is still a 10, and how useful it is, which she'll give it a 9. So all in all, she'll revise her rating and say she'll give it a 9 out of 10, or maybe a 9.5. It's a really great monster! Next up is Roa's fusion monster, Fierce Dude Falal. It is a level 7 with 2700 attack, 1300 defense, and can be made by fusing Falal of the Forenether and Falal of Wisdom. You can use its effect during your main phase when it was fusion summoned, and then you get to choose 1 fiend-type monster in your graveyard and special summon it to your side of the field face up. In Shiose's opinion, this is an amazing card and probably the best one out of all of the main 7 fusion monsters that were released. Why? Well, there's 3 reasons that Shiose can think of. 1, Fierce Dude Falal is really easy to get out, thanks to the fact that Falal of the Foreknother can special summon Falal of Wisdom the turn it is summoned. Plus you have a bunch of other cards like Evil Star Guidance that's meant to put fodder on your field, and can target Falal of Wisdom as well. Then, number 2, you have the fact that its effect lets you choose any fiend type monster in your graveyard to special summon it to your side of the field. Any! And this is amazing! Why? Because unlike Stray Familia, which only lets you target normal spellcasters, Fierce Dude Falal can target any fiend type. So let's say you get a heavy metal, or no one plays Invasion, but Invasion, or your Death Doom that was sacked a while ago. You can then use that plus Phaser to then get another level 7 or higher fiend from your graveyard, and then tribute those to activate Death Doom's effect, which is a board wipe that has no limits. You could kill a maximum with it, and that's what makes fiend decks so like great to use, but only when they work, you know, because they tend to be a little bit bricky. However, with Fierce Dude Falal, that opens up amazing new possibilities for Roa's deck. And number 3, the reason why Shiose thinks this is great is because despite its effect, it also has 2700 attack. And that is more than enough to beat over most things. Save maybe like a Blue Eyes White Dragon, but you know, that's a legend card for a reason. All in all, Shiose would give this card, well, first rating it on coolness, the design doesn't really speak to her. She'd probably give it a 7 out of 10 based on design. It is super cool though, she does admit that. For usefulness though, she gives it another 10 out of 10. And even looking past the design, thanks to the fact that this monster is so useful, Shiose would just give it a straight up 10 out of 10 anyway. Second to last is Permanent Hykrotron. Hopefully Shiose pronounced that correctly. And it's a level 8 with 2600 attack using Femtron and Cycliptron as its materials. Its requirement is that you can activate this card's effect if there are 3 or more effect monsters, Cybers type, in your graveyard. Then you can draw 2 cards, choose 1 card from your hand, and place it on the bottom of your deck. So, looking at it from a surface level, Shiose finds this one a bit strange. So, unfortunately, she doesn't play too many Cybers decks, so she can't speak fully on it. But looking at it, 1, it requires Femtron, which is great actually, because you can send Femtron to the graveyard, and Femtron is how all of your other Trons and Cybers activate their effects. They require it to be in the graveyard. What is strange, however, is that you can only activate Permalin's effect if there are 3 or more effect Cybers type monsters in your graveyard. Which would imply that at the time you would activate its effect, you would already be in the middle of your draw engine. You'd already be getting things off and drawing more and using your Trons to draw even more to get to Yggdrago. So stopping just to summon Permaland or some variation of is just a little strange to her. On top of all of that, while it probably wouldn't be too big of a deal for Cybers type decks to incorporate 1 or 2 fusion cards because they draw so much and can afford it overall, it is still strange because, well, you would be bloating your deck. And the point of the Cybers type is to get to Yggdrago faster. That's just Shiose's opinion though, of course. Because she doesn't play too much Cyber, she can't speak on it, actually. So, you know, if anyone in the comments would like to let her know what they think of Permanent Hykrotron, or if they tried it out, please let her know what you think. To her, it just seems a little bit strange. Well, anyway, for its design, Shiose gives it a 5 out of 10. It's okay. It's fine. It's serviceable. For its effect, she'll give it a 6 out of 10. So she'd probably place it at around a 6 as well. 6 out of 10 for Permanent Hykrotron. Last, but certainly not least, is Winged Celestia Dragon of Wheel and Woe. It is a level 7 worm with 2300 attack and 1300 defense, using Coiled Dragon of Fertility and Coiled Dragon of Destruction as its materials. You can activate its effect by shuffling one worm-type monster from your graveyard into the deck. Send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. If you send a spell card to the graveyard with this effect, you can also choose up to 2 field spells in your grave and add them to your hand. So, looking at it on a surface level, 1, it looks really cool. It looks super duper cool. But 2, this is a little bit of a strange one. Shiose would probably put it on the same level as Stray Familia in terms of how strange it is. It isn't inherently bad. Shiose might retract that statement in a moment. But milling 3 cards of your deck in order to get 2 field spells in your grave just does nothing but bloat your hand, which, if you're playing Worm Excavator, is a great thing. That's fine. If you're just trying to get a bunch of cards in your hand in preparation to summon Worm Excavator and gain its continuous effect for extra attack, that's fine. What's strange though is that if you're running both Coiled Dragon of Fertility and Coiled Dragon of Destruction, you probably wouldn't be wanting to run Worm Excavator anyway, and because of how many cards this takes to get out, again, because it's a fusion, it's -3, you already have to dedicate around 9 slots in your deck for your maximum, for one monster, and now you have to dedicate another 9 slots for this one. So it's just, these two just don't work together, and it just feels really strange. Even in a, let's say, a pure worm, no maximum, just running off Build Dragon, while its 3 card mill is really great for Build Dragon's effect, it's still strange. So this one just seems like it has really bad synergy with the rest of the worm deck. Even if you try to build around it, it seems a little weird, and once again, the -3 just does not help it. Well, all in all, Shiose likes its design, so she gives it a 9 out of 10. As for its effect, because it's a little confusing for her, and as to how it slots into a worm deck, she'd probably give it like a 4 or a 3 out of 10. All in all, probably a 6. Probably a 6 out of 10. Unfortunate. Sorry, Miss Asana. Well, those were all of Shiose's thoughts on the new main 7 fusion monsters. Now she knows that there were 2 new monsters that were introduced about a day right before this video was published. Right in the middle of editing this video, they came out, so Shiose just made the decision to do another video focusing on them that'll probably be out either tomorrow or the day after, and not include them in this video because otherwise she would have to delay even further, and she just wanted to get this out for everyone. Thank you for watching. Let her know in the comments which card you like best. Bye bye.